Okay, so you're clearly a very artistic and creative person, but what drew you specifically to photography?
For me, the plan was never to be a photographer. I've been asked this question a lot through the years, and I started out because I worked with children for all of my working life. I worked with special needs kids, children with autism and such. And I was trying to look for something to break away from that and start something more on the creative side. And I studied graphic design. So I was taking that online part-time while I worked, one full-time, one part-time job. That took me 5 years to finish. And in order to complete the whole program certificate, I had to choose something else on top of the graphic design. There was like drawing and other things in which I already kind of know how to draw. So I chose photography to complete the certificate. And when I started doing the projects for class, like I'd use my friends to model for me or whatever, people's response to me, like my work when I posted, even though to me now that's like god awful photos when I look back at those, but it was very positive, and I was like, okay. And it just kind of went like that. It was always, and then somebody, these other people were like, well, you should get a business license, or you should do this and that. And I just kind of got pushed into photography, and I just ended up going that route. That's how it ended up for me to be, where I am now. So
we're looking at where your work is currently in a stylistic sense. Is this the kind of work that you were aiming to produce when you first started out?
Honestly, no. When I started, I didn't know what I was aiming for at all. So I was doing anything and everything. And I think a lot of photographers start like that, I'm assuming. I would do street photography. I had the 70 to 200 lens. I sold that quite a long time ago. I was doing family. I was doing people's pets, trying photojournalism style and all that. Only after I would say maybe the first couple years is when I started to develop a style and preference. It still, varies up to this day. Like I will do, maybe a high fashion, but then I'll do like a soft kind of painterly portrait. My style varies, but the style, like for me to get into what I am now, it took a lot of, trial and error, and it took me having to deal with like, clients I didn't want to deal with, like that pushed me away from that and into what I do now, so I can do something that I enjoy. But yeah. That's how I ended up here.
So I've been a huge fan of yours for quite a while. What, if any, pressure comes with being a well-known name in photography?
Yeah. So, I don't see myself as a well-known photographer. I guess I just don't look at it that way. I mean, I have an okay following and such, but as for the pressure thing, I guess it's just knowing that, certain people are always ready to criticize your work or judge you, put you down and so on. And that's just the nature of the industry and the business, really. So the pressure aspect, I think, would be more from that, and the mentality of, if you're so good, if you're known or you're teaching others, and why was your composition slightly off? And why didn't you crop it here instead of there and stuff like that? Those are the kinds of things that get thrown at me. I don't care about them, but to me, it becomes where I'm just, you get a little worried because you just feel people are judging you more because you're more of in the spotlight with things. So it ends up where, but after a while you learn to try to just not care and ignore it, right? So, I mean, not so much pressure anymore as when I first started. It was a lot more stressful back then. Now I'm just sort of like, whatever. Moving on, Yeah.
So the ideas behind your conceptual pieces, are they a collaborative effort with your team, or do you come up with the overall idea and then direct the team kind of accordingly based on your idea?
So it's a little bit of both usually. Most times I have a set idea in my head. We'll create a mood board or, a Pinterest board where we can all log in as a team and add things or discuss or make notes. I'll gather various images to be able to communicate my idea to them, the team members. I will take, say the colors from one image. I'll take the mood from another. the setting or styling and, the atmosphere or whatever the case. I'll mix them together into my own concept and I discuss it with my team and then we will just go from there. Most of the times, they'll have input, but the ideas kind of are my set idea first and then just see how it blossoms afterwards.
So a bit of a two-part question. What's your selection process for models? And what do you think makes a good model?
Right. So this, I think people assume that a model has to be, drop dead gorgeous and, she has to be, years of experience. Well, that's not always the case. I have a preference, obviously, like for the kinds of faces that I do work with. And I notice certain photographers do as well. I will, so say I'm talking to like a modeling agency, I'll say, after we've already planned what we're going to do, then usually I'll look for the model unless I had her set in mind from the beginning. And I'll send the agency, okay, this is what we're doing. I need a model that would suit this look. So that's kind of the first steps, unless I just go into my little, roster of girls that I work with on a repeated basis, that I think would play the part of whatever it is. And then from there, we decide like, if her face will match that, concept and whatever the case. And models also, sometimes I've worked with models who have been sent to me and they haven't really done that well. And they've been really beautiful. Sometimes girls have shown up and they've been super plain. And when they come to the door, I'm like, whoa, you're so and so. And I can't believe it. But even myself forget, that they're always retouched and edited to perfection. So, but when they get in front of the camera, they're doing amazing. And so it's always, it's going to be a surprise or it's not going to work out. But for the most part, when I do choose my girls, I will, if it's like, say it's an important shoot, say something, we're doing an editorial, I'll make sure that I choose a girl that I've worked with a couple times and I know that she will perform well, regardless of like if she's, super gorgeous or just plain looking. That's more important to me than their look sometimes. So it's just like when you choose, when directors are choosing an actor to play a part, it's based off their skill a lot of times. So the models kind of deserve a little more credit sometimes for what they have to do in front of the camera. But yeah, that's kind of my way of choosing the girls that I do. And if it doesn't work out, well, I guess I just will never with that model again type of thing. So anyway, yeah.
So obviously you've got quite an extensive history with photography and graphic design and whatnot. Do you prefer shooting or retouching? I actually like the entire process. I do like the planning. I like the styling. I like the background setup if there is any, like if I'm shooting indoors. And I like the editing, but I also dislike each aspect at times too, because it can be frustrating when I can't get things to how I want them. So, it's not really that I like something more. I like every step. I don't just shoot. So I do everything from beginning to end for most of my setups and the final product. So it just depends really. I don't like to spend too much time on any part of it though. I don't want to shoot for 9 hours. I don't want to edit a picture for 3 hours. Like that gets to me. So, as long as everything goes smoothly, I like, everything from point A to point B to point C and so on. But yeah. So for those that don't know, what is the daydreamerslens.com?
So that's I have a little online shop. I used to have it on amandadiaz.com and I decided I want to separate my store from my actual website. It's just where I offer digital goods for editing. So, Photoshop actions, overlays, textures. And most will include like a video tutorial to follow along. So it's easy, to begin using the tools straight away. So, and I don't have like an overwhelming amount of products on there, just stuff that I use myself. I'll create it into a product and upload it. Cause a lot of times people ask me like, oh, what, how did you get it to look like this? Or how come it looks like that? And I'll say, oh, well, I use this texture or whatever the case.
So do you still have shoots that don't go according to plan? And how do you deal with setbacks on shoots?
Yeah. All the time. All the time. I think people think that, if you've been shooting for years, that everything becomes perfect and everything's going great. But going off from that earlier question, 9 times out of 10, it does not quite turn out what I imagined. Honestly, it will either be even better than I had hoped or a total fail. It can go either way. It really does. Yeah, it's never quite what was in my head. So it really depends on who I'm working with, how we work together. If it was, if I was successful on my lighting, or if the model did well or didn't do well. And when it doesn't work out, I for sure get upset and frustrated. And usually, because I put a lot of effort into planning it, right, and setting it up and doing all this, not always. Sometimes it's like random last minute shoots, but when it doesn't work out, I actually will not look at the images for weeks so that I can emotionally disconnect myself from the failure. In my eyes, it was a failure, So afterwards, I can salvage a few images that, I might like later. And sometimes people are like, no, they turned out good, but we are our own worst critics. So if I don't like the photo, I just feel like, oh, it's been a fail. So of the shoot, I mean, so that's kind of how I deal with it. It takes me a long time to get past that emotion, that, failure feeling, but yeah.
So this one's a question that no one ever seems to want to answer, but if you could photograph any 3 people, who would you choose?
Okay. This one, I was thinking I don't really think about that. I've never thought if I could photograph somebody, who would it be? I've never really thought about stuff like that because I've heard these kinds of questions before and it's kind of tough, but I'll say that because I mainly work with models all the time. Well, most of the time, I'll say 95% of the time. I have models who, growing up, when I was younger, in my teens and childhood even, that were supermodels. And so the first one would be Linda Evangelista. She was a big supermodel. She was born in 1965, and she was, I think it was the late 80s, early 90s. All these girls were kind of out there like that. She was one model I used to love looking at. Oh my God, that girl's so pretty. Her photos were always really classy looking. Cindy Crawford is another supermodel back in the day, and Naomi Campbell. So those 3 girls, I guess if I had an opportunity to work with them, I would. And even now, as they're all older, they still look so beautiful. But yeah, those are, I guess that's the 3 people that I would, because they were amazing models, right? So I think, oh my God, I would have such a good shoot with these ladies, right?
Well, you're the only person that's ever given me 3 names, so I'm pretty impressed.
Oh, okay.
Everyone always dodges the question, so it's pretty great.
It's a hard question, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's probably just because I have had a lot of downtime I take a month off every year to kind of recuperate from photographing weddings and models and whatnot. And it's something that I thought about in my downtime, who I would want to photograph. Or if I'm watching a movie, I see a face, I'm like, I'd love to photograph this person. So I think I've just thought about it a lot. And I assume everyone else has thought about it as much as I have.
Yeah, probably. But then you just and then just fades to the back of your mind, right? But yeah, it is a good question. And I would love to shoot those ladies. They're even, like I said, now, they're probably, I don't know what, they're probably in their later 50s or mid 50s. But yeah, I would still shoot them now.
So a bit of a geeky question, but what is your current camera setup?
Yeah, so I am not one to be big on equipment. I've never been into the technical aspect of things. I I obviously have to make sure I'm using proper equipment. But if it works well, then I, don't try to fix it, kind of thing. I'm still using the Canon 5D Mark III. I have the Mark II as my backup. So those are pretty old, but hey, they're still working great. As far as my lenses, I have the Canon 85 1.2, the L 1.2. That's my favorite lens in the entire world. I just love that lens so much. The next one is my Sigma 50 millimeter art lens. That's the 1.4. And then I have a Sigma Art 24 to 35, which I use when I really have to, like if I'm in a really tight space or I've got to capture more of like a little more, spread out set. But otherwise, because I do so much portraits, my 50 and 85 are the most common ones. And then just my basic pro photo lights, beauty dish, whatever else, if I need them. So
at the moment, who are your favorite photographers?
So I have a couple, and I talk about these to people a lot. Even when I would have my workshops, I go over their work to share with the students. The first one is Vincent Peters. So he works with like mainly celebrities, and I think he works with like some supermodels, but the way his lighting is and the way he captures people is just absolutely, it's so beautiful and it's so simple. And the way he just, I don't know, it's hard to explain, but you've got to check him out if you don't know who I'm talking about. Vincent Peters. I actually wrote him sometime back in the day and he responded, and I just about like, my heart just melted. I couldn't believe he answered me. I don't know what I said to him. It was like 5-6 years back, but he has a coffee table book out and stuff. I bought it. It's just, his work is gorgeous. So he works with celebrities. And then the next one is Lee Jeffries, who is very like the total opposite. He shoots homeless people and he goes around all over, I don't know if it's all over the world, but I know he travels, and the way he captures these people is so insane. And there's something he does, like he makes their eyes look like glass, and they're just gritty, raw, very dark, very emotional driven images. So those two are a big inspiration for me, yet they're so different, but the root of both of their work is like very, very emotional. Like it just gives you like a mood when you look, but both in different ways. And so I try to take elements from them both, the way they capture people, and try to, implement that in my own work, not to copy their style, but just the way they trigger like emotion, So those are my two favorite for now. Yeah.
Okay. So if I could ask you this then, if you weren't working as a photographer, what would you be doing?
I think I've thought about this before, because I thought, like if I ever just stopped photography, what the hell would I be doing? But I think what I would love to do is to be a stylist, a clothing stylist for like, say, magazine shoots. On set shoots, like maybe movies, everything like that. As that's something I've always loved is fashion. So I used to draw, I used to have like a fashion illustration book when I was a kid. Well, kid, preteen, whatever. And I used to draw fashions all the time. That's basically how I knew about the models I mentioned, that when you asked about the 3 people that I would want to shoot, because it wasn't so much like I would see those models when I was younger and say, oh, I want to shoot those models, but I just learned about them because of the magazines we're in. But I noticed them only because of me studying fashion. And so I think that plays a big part in my photos. Now I have that ability to style and do things I want to do. But yeah, I think that's what I would do. I'd be a fashion stylist if I could.
So I haven't told anybody that I was going to be speaking to you bar one person, because I didn't want to jinx it. I was so excited about this. But the one person I did tell, I said, is there any questions you think I should ask? And they said, find out if she prints her work. So I have to ask you, do you print your work?
Okay, no. I know I need a slap, right? I don't. I don't. I've been told so much times through the years, like, what? Why aren't you, getting it in print or whatever? But I know I should. I don't know. I don't know what to say. I should. I really should. And I actually started a folder of my work through the years of like certain images that I really I'm proud of, and I love them. Not many. This doesn't happen often, believe it or not, but there's certain images that I really love. And I've thought maybe one day I will send them off and get them done up in canvas or whatever the case, and put them up or do something with them. So, but no, No, I don't.
Well, that leads me on perfectly to my next question. Obviously, you've got quite an extensive portfolio. You have so many amazing images, but do you have a favorite image or series of images within your work?
No, and no, I don't. I know it sounds so bad. I have a few shoots. Yeah, I have a few shoots that I'm really proud of from, say through the past, like from the past years. The ones that are really surreal and painterly, I guess, like I couldn't, like off the top of my head, I could maybe tell you about a couple pictures. There's one where a girl, she's wearing red. We had like pinned all this red material onto her body. It was a composite of multiple shots. I photoshopped like doves in there. Her hair was like flying and the material was blowing everywhere. But this was a number of shots we had to take for me to create this one image, which that was actually printed, but that was for a charity thing. So that image got printed and sent out to a person who won that on a canvas or whatever. So that was one image I think I was really, really proud of and happy with. Those ones that are very like almost just unrealistic, painterly. Those ones are the ones I guess I'm most proud of, but yeah, the really artsy ones,
Absolutely. I remember getting really excited at the announcement that you were going to do an RGGEDU course, and obviously that's now out, and I've got it and I've watched it several times and so on.
Okay. Wow!
It's an amazing course. It's really fantastic. It's really comprehensive as well because a lot of BTS is kind of polished up, and a lot of tutorials are polished up to hide sort of the thinking through process of shooting and the pre-production and the post-production. How did that come about? With you working with RGGEDU, and was it difficult to create?
It was, so at first, from what I remember, I believe that Rob, he actually, I think he's not presently with the company. I think it's Gary took over. So, but anyways, they contacted me. I think it was Rob who reached out, and they just said, hey, we'd like to create a tutorial with you. They sent me some past stuff they had done, and I think it was, I don't know if it was like, I can't remember. Somebody referred me to them, another photographer. That's how I ended up getting, connected with them. We flew out I took my makeup girl and another girl to assist. We flew out to San Diego. It was a week-long process. It took us 2 months of planning before I went out there. So there was a lot of planning going on. We had to set up the shoots. We had to find the models. We had to do all of this way in advance just to try to save any kind of trouble when it was time to shoot. There's a lot that's put into that kind of stuff. People don't realize the amount of work. And plus when I'm in front of the camera, I'm nervous. So I don't even know what the hell to say. I'm babbling or whatever. So that was that I would say would be the issues that went on. But otherwise, it went pretty smoothly. And I know I've gotten a lot of positive feedback. Believe it or not, I've never watched my own tutorial. I won't watch it. I won't. I know. I will not look at that. I will not even watch a clip of it. I just can't. And same with, I did a creative live a few years prior to that. Still haven't watched it. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I don't want to see it. Anyway.
So a bit of a kind of a loaded question. I apologize, but do you feel that there are any benefits to working with female models when you're a female photographer?
Yeah, I do. So I think it's more of like the connection bit. My personality, I joke around a lot. I don't know if that probably plays a part to getting my models to be comfortable and just, do what I need them to do because I'm like encouraging. And from female to female, sometimes I think it just ends up being easier. The girls don't feel any kind of way, or as nervous as say, in front of a male photographer. I mean, not all male photographers. I don't want to make it sound like that, but I just think it's like when it's like another female guiding another female, it's easier for us to like that femininity part of it, We women look at other women mostly differently, right? You know what I mean? Like we kind of observe women in a different way than what a man would observe a woman in. So I think that makes it a lot easier for me to guide the girls that I work with, tell them, how to,
pose and move their body and how I need them to look at me and what emotions I need from them. So that kind of thing. Yeah. So I think that's the advantage that, for me that I have.
I completely agree. Yeah. I think it's, I remember watching an interview years ago and I cannot remember who the photographer was, but it was a male photographer and he said that the problem he had, he's so for clarification, he's gay. And he said that the problem he had when he was in his 20s photographing models was that he had to basically bring up that he was gay as a part of the conversation so that they didn't think that any of his emotions towards them were mixed between being interpersonal and professional. And I thought that was really interesting. I mean, I started photography when I was in my mid-20s and I never even thought about it. I've been with my wife since I was 15 years old and I've just never given it a second thought. It's just, I think it's a really interesting point. I'd love for it to be more acknowledged and recognized and that it's something that's really beneficial for being a female photographer. And it's kind of not beneficial male photographer to male model, I think. But that's a whole different thing. Obviously, every single day we learn more and more and we're always trying to be better than we were the day before. What piece of advice would you give yourself for when you were starting out, given your sort of current skill set and experience?
Well, okay, I guess, it would be that I would tell myself to be prepared for failure and rejection. It doesn't end. It doesn't end. Like, it doesn't matter where, unless you're a big time celebrity, superstar photographer, that rejection stuff continues. It happens, in different ways and it hurts, it's hurtful. And people who are like more on the artistic side, we are kind of more emotionally driven people, whether you're female or not. Like, I know maybe some guys don't like to admit to that, but it's hurtful when you're rejected or, you hit failures or people are just being cruel or whatever the case. So I would tell myself, if I could, that's going to happen, because when it did, and when I first started going through that, it was like, I'd be crying myself to sleep and feeling sorry for myself. And, like I said, over the years, you get over it a little more, but, that's a big one for me. So
no, I couldn't agree more. I've had to keep that in mind the last couple of weeks with these podcasts. The rejection has been strong with some people. So
yeah,
I completely agree. So, last question, and I could let you go. I know you're probably a very busy person and I really appreciate your time, but, how do you stay creative in your downtime?
Well, I honestly, I sometimes I get into terrible slumps myself. I don't constantly stay creative. I know that is not like that for me is not possible. I can get into slumps and I can stay there for a while. But to help me, get out of that, sometimes I will seek inspiration from like art or photos or even from like cinematic movies, things like that. It'll help me, like it'll trigger ideas for me to snap out of like the current mindset I'm in, because I think as creatives, it's just not possible to constantly stay elevated like that. We have a lot of highs and lows, right? So for me, in my downtime, I guess, that's the best that I can do, or I'll just totally not deal with, I will not, address anything photography wise at all. I'll do other things. I like I like, crafty stuff, I like to do like artsy stuff with my hands, like planner, whatever the case. So I'll do little things like that to kind of break away from the photography thing and then come back with a refreshed, mind frame. So yeah.
Amazing. I was sent a message last week about the fact that because of the lockdown we have in England and the lack of mobility for most of the people in the world now, I've taken the opportunity to approach people like yourself that are really far away and perhaps, have the time available to talk to me. And I've spoken to some amazing people. I've been so fortunate. And I actually received a message last week saying that I need to stop pretending that I like every guest that I have on the podcast as much as what I do, which I thought was quite funny. So this is specifically for that person who's going to be listening and probably gritting their teeth. I am so, I've been so nervous through this whole process. I am such a huge fan of yours. You are a huge name in my opinion. I can't wait to see your work whenever it comes out. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. It's absolutely made my week. I just want to say thank you so much.
Oh, you're welcome. I appreciate you having me. And I don't, see you pretending anything. So I thought this was quite a good conversation. But yeah.
What I need to do is I always make sure every guest tells us where we can find them online. So your social media, your website, and also let's remember to go back to thedaydreamerslens.com as well and bring that up. So where can we find you?
Yeah. So if from my main website is just amandadiaz.com. And on there is social media links, but on Instagram, I'm on there more than the other social media sites. It's just amandadiaz.com on Instagram, but DOTCOM. And then I have my Facebook fan page, and it's just Amanda Diaz Photography. The other ones I'm not even going to bother talking about, so I don't really do anything on them. So I should be, but yeah, I'm not. Yeah, so Instagram, Facebook is where I'm at usually.
And thedaydreamerslens.com.
Yes, yeah, in my shop.
Amazing. Thank you so much. It's so appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
About to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out, die with my own doubts. Be free with me. Be free. Be free with me. Be free. Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we wait.